please remember that the funding originally for culture was 100% tax dollars. But those dollars started to get scarcer in the very early 1980s. And to augment what they were trying to do and the legacy they were upholding at the time, which was coming from Premier Lougheed, the staff managed to finagle some of the lottery money that was coming in and get it assigned to their department to augment what was being done there. And over a period of time, the dollar amount, the tax dollars for culture, was withdrawn more and more and more, and increasing amounts of gaming dollars, gambling dollars, replaced it until finally all of the activities are in fact funded by lottery dollars. Now, that connects really closely to lottery dollars, and they're not a big deal right now. Nobody seems particularly exercised about the fact that $1.485 billion that this government raises and uses comes from gambling in this province. So the biggest addict to gambling is the government, because that's now an integral part of how they do their budgeting. And they depend on that money coming in, so they got to have it. So they've got to encourage a certain level of gambling to continue in this province because they need that money. So interesting things have happened over time with how the lottery money is accounted for. So in my time, it used to come out originally as a separate document. So you had the General Revenue Fund and you had the Lottery Revenue Fund. And it showed, you know, the money that came in through ticket sales, through I think it's just the two things. It's ticket sales, and then the big monster blow-up of revenue was the VLTs. And now we have the slot machines. And that was the really big bounce, because it was always sort of 200, 300,000 was the revenue from the lottery-based tickets like Lotto Max and 649 and Western, whatever it is now. The money that the province actually makes, that was at $200,000, $300,000. But then it jumped to over $1 billion when the slot machines, when the VLTs came in, and then the slot machines behind them. And I always love the fact that the government explains this by saying that they had to get into the business of being the gambling operator, because if they didn't do it, organized crime would. ... Oh, my goodness. Sorry, Hansard, you can't actually get the laugh in there, but maybe you can write it in. That's just, you gotta love it. You gotta love it, really. So then there was a to-do in the late 70s about VLTs, and people were feeling, you know, there was lots of stories about people that became addicted to the VLT revenues, and they gambled away everything, their family's house, the car, the kids' education, everything. And they were devastated, and people were not so keen about these VLTs. And some local municipalities voted to have them removed. Now, remember what I said at the beginning about the province really needing these gambling monies because they count on them. So the province managed to drag everybody through the courts long enough that people forgot and things got settled. But the way they accounted for it at that point is they needed to prove to people how important and integral the gambling money was to what this province is. So all of a sudden we started to get in every department's budget, except a couple, I think it was 14 budgets, right in the budget, you would see from the lottery fund, and then they would assign certain amounts of money to it. So it was building a school, it was supporting an Aboriginal initiative, it was in all of these departments, they were accounting for use of lottery money and making it mean something. So at that point, if people said, well, get rid of the VLT money, quit gambling, government could say, really? You don't want that school? You don't want that program? But that's what it's paying for. I got to admire it. It's pretty clever, and it worked. So people moved off of the VLT government as a gambling addict thing, and have stayed off it. I mean, people have accepted gambling as a form of entertainment now, although there's still always a hesitation about how it affects people who are problem gamblers and how it affects the rest of society that have to pick up the pieces behind them. We did have a Department of Gaming at one point. They called it gaming, I call it gambling. Gaming sounded more fun and not quite so insidious and dangerous. And in that document, then you got all of the things that they then decided to admit were being paid for out of the lottery fund were accounted for under the gaming department, including all of the big foundations that money went out to. Another way of accounting for it. And this year, God darn it, but I can't find it. And I ask, where's the lottery money? Like, I know it's paying for things in culture, like the CFEP grant and the SIP grant. Where is it? Well, yes, they admit that's where the money's coming from, but no, they don't account for it in their budget anymore. Huh? Well, it's under Treasury. And I look, and indeed it is. There it is, one line in Treasury, showing that Treasury is transferring $1.485 billion from the lottery fund, coming from Treasury as largesse out to all of the ministries. So there's a little trip down memory lane for you about how you can have different accounting practices for lottery money.